the Hidaru was following his goats in his little cart, and sometimes he'd get stuck in a rut and he'd kind of almost like wheelchair help his goat get past, and he found they're yada roots, and they're really big. They're, you know, barrel big around, and they go down in the ground quite deep, and they're very, very nutritious. And so he decides that he wants to, you know, he wants to dig some of these roots, and he lifts himself out of his chair and gets his trowel and starts digging around them, letting his goats harvest and graze. And he digs these roots out and he sets them in his cart, and he's figuring on sitting on top of them on the way home and, you know, balancing himself, or on the way to a cache. Well, anyways, he doesn't want to leave the holes the way they are. He cuts off the tops of these roots and he shoves them down the hole, and then he sees this kind of like dead spot where nothing's growing, and he wants to take some of the dead earth and put it in the hole that he left. And he goes to dig, and his trowel like hits something hard, and he kind of realizes that dead spot of earth is kind of square, and he begins scraping at it and dusting away the dirt, and it's a trap door. It's made out of really thick pottery, and it's hooked together kind of like a Chinese puzzle or something. And he lifts open the lid, kind of props it over, and there's ladder that goes down, and he lowers himself down, and it's a grazer cache for sure. There are, you know, shelves and stuff and he could see where vegetables had been hanging and where vegetables had been stored, but it was ancient, obviously. Everything pretty much had turned to dust, but there were these pots, and the pottery was amazing. The colors of the glazes and the designs on the pottery were just phenomenal, and like nothing he'd ever seen before. And there were pots of honey that were still good, and there were pots full of like dried mushrooms that were still good. And there were bookshelves full of books, and the writing was draconian. It wasn't, he'd never seen draconian writing. He didn't know this, but it was like not a grazer thing to write. Grazers are an oral history tradition type people. And the other thing that kind of made his hackles go up is there was a set of draconian armor. You could tell by the big headdress, and there was a big bow and a huge double-bladed sword in the corner, and there was just a whole armory down there. And he's like, well, this is really odd. This is not, you know, not normal grazer cache at all. And he's kind of creeped out. He's like, doesn't really know what's going on. But he pulls himself back out and closes the lid, and kind of looks around and gets his bearings as to where he is, so he could maybe find the place again, and then covers it over with dust again. He goes to his own cache, which is only like a mile or two away, and stuffs his roots in his root cellar, and munches on some dandelions while he's there. And on a whim, he decides to kind of herd his goats over to where he knows an older, where an uncle of his lives. And as he gets closer, you know, his wheels rattle and stuff, and he kind of makes a lot of man noises with his big goats and stuff, and so the grazers are like, man, men are coming. But they could tell that it's not Anatnon, so they're not, you know, super ready to run. And so he just stands there and waits, and pretty soon these two old grazers, grazers grow a lot more hair on their face and stuff as they get older, and they wear a lot more clothes as they get older. Young grazers usually just wear a belt that they can hook their trowel and have a couple pockets in, but old grazers wear these linen shirts and then a linen sweater over the top of the linen shirt, and then really old grazers will wear a jacket over the top of that and a cap, and they start bundling up as they get older. Well, two very well bundled male grazers slowly hop towards him, and he asks about the cache, and he's like, it kind of looked like a warrior lived in an ancient, and he describes the place to him. They go, oh, yeah. My grandpa used to tell me stories about a draconian warrior who took it into his head to hunt anatnoms and elk and grazers and in his younger days when he was still, a fierce warrior, and he followed grouse around, and he was fascinated by the plains, and at first he really almost wiped out the whole grazer population just over hunting, because he would just loved killing grazers, and he's terrified. But after years, he started like sitting and watching us, and he would cover himself all in grass and sneak through the grass and just sit and watch us for hours, and it'd really creep us out. And one time he even went so far as to disguise himself as a grazer, using like the skin and stuff of a grazer, and trying to hop up to us so that he could talk to us. We still tell, horror stories to our children. If you're not good, the dragon room will get you. Well, anyways, he made a 100-year study out of learning how to do our pottery and learning how to build our houses and build our cache and how we do medicine and how we eat. And he ate like us, and he studied us in incredible detail. It was very intrusive. And towards the end of it, we weren't horribly afraid of him anymore. We still wouldn't talk to him, but we weren't horribly afraid of him anymore because he completely stopped killing us. And then I think he got bored and went and watched anatnoms or something. And somebody said that he's teaching at the academy now. He teaches like people studies or something like that. Maybe he's an anthropologist, something. I'm not sure.